Now, if you've never done AFL Fantasy before and you're doing it for the first time this year, you may be in for a little shock when you're addicted to the AFL Fantasy app like I am. Every time you can get your hands for a few minutes on that app, your team just flips around in a matter of seconds. It's all about intrusive thoughts, and it's all about your team flipping around in the thoughts of mind at that moment of time. That has happened a lot over the past month since I last showed you my fantasy team, but today, here is my February update for my fantasy team. My last update I give you before I give you my round 1 team in a video in March. Let's get into this because there have been a lot of changes made since I last showed you in January. Since I last showed you my backline, there are only 2 players that remain. I've got Sam Doherty, who was my D1 in my last video and is still my D1 and is still my vice captain. Now, there's rumours that he will get pushed into the midfield a little bit this year. There's also fantastic signs that he'll be back to his form that he had last year, which was just absolutely astounding, crunching up the ball every time it went into that Carlton backline. And the other defender that remains, he was D3 in the last video that I made. He's now been relegated to D4, but it's Fremantle's Hayden Young, still sitting at 776k. He averaged 87.6 last year, and this is the breakout year for him. You saw the way he was crunching up those intercept marks last year. Just imagine how good he'll be with another year under his belt, some finals experience, some experience of playing in a relatively good team. Imagine how far that will take Hayden Young this year, especially with all the astounding experience around him, such as, Nat Fyfe, Jager O'Meara, Michael Walters. Now let's get into the remaining positions. I've got a D2, a D3, a D5, and a D6 to clean up. In D2, no longer Jordan Dawson. I feel like he's just a little bit too much for a player that could get tagged in hindsight. So I've gone the Geelong route. I've gone the route of Tom Stewart. Stewart's a player that can't really get tagged. He's a very Sam Doherty-like player. Plays, a little bit further back down the ground. He's got that Doherty ability to be able to crunch up mark. He takes the kick-outs. He's on the ball a lot. A lot of kicks means a lot of +3s. If you take a look at Tom Stewart's stats last year, he got that 5-match suspension in round 15. But then, from round 20 to round 23, he ended the season off with a 96, a 46, a 90, and an 84. So a little bit average. But if you have a look at his mid-season form and when he's at his best, he is at his best. He averaged 94.4 last year. These were his scores from round 5 to round 11. 95, 96, 157, 93, 106, 94, 169. Absolutely ridiculous scores Tom Stewart put up last year, and I've got no doubts actually that he will be back to his resounding best from what ended up as a little bit of a rough patch to end last season. Coming up my D3, give me another Geelong player, not far behind Tom Stewart, 820k. I've actually got more hope for this bloke than Tom Stewart, and Tom Stewart's a player that may actually get traded out my team. This bloke, I don't think will get traded out my team before round 1. I've got huge high hopes for this man. It's Mitch Duncan. Mitch Duncan playing off halfback is pretty much the Geelong Jack Sinclair. The amount of times he gets the ball and just moves the ball off halfback, moves the ball to the wings, a heap of +3s. He uses his feet a lot, and Geelong like to have the ball in Mitch Duncan's hands. He averaged 92.6 last season. 2021, he averaged 100.3. He's pretty much average 100 every year since 2017, except for the COVID year on last year. And even in the COVID year with 16-minute quarters, he averaged 85. Absolutely obscene. There are a few inconsistencies from Duncan last year, but for the most part, really consistent, really strong, putting up strong scores every week, and I see no reason why he can find a way out of my side. Mitch Duncan is going to be a vital part of UCATT FC in 2023. And coming in at D5, you know what, let's keep the theme rolling. Another Geelong player at only 607k this time. So as you can tell, I've gone very, very strong in my backline. I've gone with Jack Bowes. Jack Bowes has made his way from the Suns to the Cats, and he's training with the midfield group. He'll find his way into the midfield from round 1 onwards, and if he can consistently start putting together performances of being in a Geelong engine room and even averaging just that 80-90 at a price of 600k, Jack Bowes is an absolute bargain, and I think he's being overlooked by so many coaches. I cannot believe more people aren't going after this man. He only played 5 games last year, so couldn't get that continuity. He got 29, 44, 61, 103, and 40. He couldn't really find a consistent role at the Suns, but I do think he'll find one in the engine room at the Cats, and he will be racking up points left, right, and centre. It didn't work out for him at the Gold Coast, but I'm expecting a Will Brodie-like career revival at the Cats. And now a new D6, who I'm surprised wasn't in my last team. It's from the West Coast Eagles. It's Ruben Gimby. You only hear good things about this man coming from all the West Coast intra clubs that they play. 284k. He was an absolute gun in his junior career. There's a reason why West Coast picked him up early. And I've got to say, I'm really jealous of the Eagles with Gimby. I know Freo have an amazing back six, but Gimby, he could be an absolute star. I can't wait to see what he can do. And the biggest news is he is training with the midfield group and he's looking in tip-top condition. I can't wait to see what he can do this year, even being a West Coast player. So there's my back line. Doherty, Stewart, Duncan Young, Bowes, Gimby. On the bench, by the way, I think the back stocks this year is easily my strongest position on the ground and the strongest for any team. I've got I've just got a real incredible starting six. But then on the bench, you've got Darcy Wilmot and Campbell Chester, who both have the ability to average 50 or 60 off the bench, and they're both basement price at 200k. The back stocks this year are insane. Now, out of the 8 midfielders I showed you in my last video, only 4 remain. I've cut off 50% of them. The 4 that remain are Andrew Brayshaw, Tom Mitchell, Will Ashcroft and Cam McKenzie. Andy Brayshaw remains at M1. He remains as my captain, playing in the last game of the round against St Kilda in round 1. He's going to be a gun. He'll be averaging 120, 130. He's going to become a pig this year. He's going to be absolutely obscene in those guts. And Fremantle's midfield, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with most teams. You know, Jager O'Meara, Will Brody, Caleb Sarong, Andrew Brayshaw, and that's just the tip-top of the midfield. There's so much more to go through there with Darcy and Jackson in the ruck. Andrew Brayshaw is going to feast. I know he's 995k, but if you don't want to pay up for Laird, you've got to pay up for Brayshaw because there's no reason why he's not going to go massive this year. In my last video, Tom Mitchell was M3, but Tom Mitchell will be moved up to M2 here at 853k. As I said in the last video, he will feast. He will be back with that consistent role in the Collingwood engine room after Sam Mitchell tried to experiment with him last year and still ended up averaging, 96 odd. He'll be in the engine room. He will be back to averaging 110. Tom Mitchell is a bargain buy, even at 853k. I've got a new M3 coming in at only 785k, and this is my last premium in the midfield. I'm only rocking the 3 premiums in the midfield. I'm going real weak in the midfield to make up for that really strong backline. I've gone with Sydney's Chad Warner. A little bit of a Hayden Young-esque pick. I'm tipping Chad Warner to have a breakout year this year. You could argue he had a breakout year last year with how good he was with the Swans, you know, taking them to a grand final. He was a big part of that. But I think Warner, this is his real breakout year where he can start competing for a top 10 finish in the Brownlow medal. I think he's going to be absolutely absurd. Still working alongside guys like Luke Parker in tip-top shape, paying Callum Mills through that engine room. Chad Warner, he's going to be an absolute gun. The efficiency and the cleanliness of the way he uses the ball cannot be understated, and I just love watching the man play. He's probably my favourite non-Freo player in the AFL. And now, as that being my last premium, I've gone with 2 mid prices, both from West Coast. I've gone with Dom Sheed at 591k, and I've gone with Jai Culley. I was iffy about Dom Sheed. I was thinking about going with another lower price premium in that position, but after hearing what I've heard about Dom Sheed at the West Coast intra clubs, God, he sounds incredible this year. Dom Sheed is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and from what I'm hearing, you lock him in your side and you leave him in your side. You're not going to need to worry about him all year. Apparently, Dom Sheed is going to be that good this year. So this is one where I'm basing it off the public's opinion on how good he's going to be this year. So if Sheed ends up flopping, I'm blaming it on the entire AFL Fantasy community. This one, however, is an individual pick. At 490k, give me Jai Culley. I did not want to get rid of Culley for the expense of Sheed, because I have a feeling that Culley is going to have actually a better year than Sheed. Culley, I think, has the ability to average 80 to 90 in his second year at that lower price. And how old is he? He's only 19 years old. I think Jai Culley is that good. He is going to be through that West Coast midfield at such a young age, getting those opportunities. He'll be able to capitalise on, Nick Nat-Nui if he can stay fit. He got quite a large suspension last year, which sort of derailed his year, but out of the 4 games he played, 76, 87, 36, which he got injured halfway through and suspended, and then last round of the season he got 71. So taking out the interrupted game, 76, 87, 71. Jai Culley is a beast. In my opinion, lock him in at that price. And now for the 3 rookies who all haven't played yet. Will Ashcroft stays in the side. He's dominating Brisbane training. He's looking better than Lachie Neale and Josh Dunkley. That's a little bit absurd. Then you've got Cam McKenzie, who stays on my side. You know, he'll be running through that Hawthorn midfield week in, week out, with Hawthorn being as bad as they are. And I've also gone with Will Phillips ahead of George Wardlaw. A little bit cheaper. From what I've heard from Will Phillips, he was an absolute gun in his junior career. Didn't play the entire year last year, which is a little bit of a red flag for me. He didn't play the entire year last year due to glandular fever. But from what I've heard from Will Phillips, at that price, he's an absolute bargain. You have to put him in your team. Now, the rucks have changed from when I last showed you. I originally had Rowan Marshall and Scott Lycett until I realised I can't rely on Glassman Scott Lycett, who's going to get injured every second game. So I've gone with a man who's actually battling a minor hamstring injury at the moment, but should be tip-top for round one. He'll be Collingwood's #1 ruck all season. Alongside Rowan Marshall, I've gone with Darcy Cameron. The rucks are incredibly hard this year. Tim English is too much for my liking. Gawn and Grundy are no-goes for me. Maybe you could go with Grundy. Riley O'Brien's too inconsistent for me. Darcy Cameron, who's the #1 ruck at Collingwood. He'll have no one really chopping out for him, maybe except for a Mason Cox, but he's not going to chop out a lot. Darcy Cameron's the clear #1 ruck in 2023 for the Pies, and he'll get forward quite a bit too. So, you know, he'll be kicking snags, he'll be in the ruck, and he'll be scoring points. Hopefully. He did have a rough patch towards the end of the 2022 season, but we're just going to put that behind us and hope that Darcy Cameron can regain that form that he had towards you know, the mid-season last year. Now, out of the 6 forwards I had in my first video, 4 remain. So, you know, I've kept it relatively the same. 4 that remain are Josh Dunkley, Stephen Cornelio, Connor Rosie, and Mateus Filippo. They're all still at M1, M2, M3, and M6. I've gotten rid of Darcy Tucker and Aaron Cadman from my former teams. I was looking for a replacement for Aaron Cadman, and there have been a few that have popped about. Really tried to fit Toby McLean in this side, because I think McLean's going to be a gun for the Dogs this year. But at the price, I really couldn't find the 400k with how strong I've gone in some other areas. So I've ended up going in M4 and M5 with Harry Sheasel from North Melbourne and Bailey Humphrey from Gold Coast, both rookies. Going to 3 primos in the forward line is worth it. I think Dunkley, Cornelio, and Rosie are all locks for me. I think they're all going to be absolute guns, averaging over 100, especially Cornelio and Dunkley. Sheasel, very, very good feedback from North Melbourne Intra Club. He played off halfback. They wanted the ball in his hands. He moved forward and he kicked 3 snags or some shit. He's going to be very good this year, Harry Sheasel, one of the best rookies in the crop, and I personally think at that price, you need to have him in your forward line. And also has the ability to pick up a DPP mid-year if he does end up playing on that half-back role. And now I've gone with Bailey Humphrey from Gold Coast. Bailey Humphrey averaged a stupid amount at junior level, and he will be running through the midfield of the Gold Coast system, whether that's inside mid or through the wing. No matter what, at 290k, he'll score your points and he'll get your service for what you need. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video. If you haven't yet joined my fantasy league, make sure you use the code that's going to pop up on the screen right now. The footy season is back. Practice matches are back this week. There's a watch along on Thursday. There's a match day vlog on Saturday. Footy season is back, and there is no better time to hit that subscribe button to help join the army, to help us grow as big as we can this year. And the content will be like nothing you've seen before on the channel. It will be on a different level. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Cheers.